4 billion tons. That's how much crude oil we consume every single year. That's crazy. At this rate, we're going to run out of crude oil in about 50 years. This is such a big problem because we haven't found a sustainable alternative as of yet. In this video, I'm going to be talking about how we can harness the power of algae, yes, algae, to produce sustainable biofuels so that we can combat this problem of not having enough oil. Our biggest resource is the sun, and we don't exploit that enough. Algae uses photosynthesis to store energy from the sun, and this energy is stored as lipids or fat in the algae. Because algae produces fat, and fat is essentially oil, basically algae is oil. Now you might be thinking, wait, hold on. Why would we use algae in the first place? Aren't there better options that we have right now? Actually, there aren't. Right now, algae could beat our terrestrial systems by 10x. That's crazy. That means it's 10 times better and produces 10 times more lipids, which would be converted to oil, as our best terrestrial systems. Not only is that one of the benefits, but algae also has a carbon capture feature. That means that it can store carbon in it, and once it dies, the carbon will just go with the algae wherever it goes. So it takes the carbon out of the atmosphere, absorbs it, and basically helps us decrease global warming. It only makes sense that we edit algae to produce more biofuel, especially with all of these benefits. Right now, some of the drawbacks include limiting growth factors, but because those are all in the algae's DNA, just a snip and we can edit them all out. Alright, so now we know what we need to do. We need to get rid of all the growth limiting factors, and we want to increase the amount of lipid that the algae produces. That means we have to find the right environment for this algae before we gene edit it so that we can maximize the amount of output that we get. Scientists have two options. One, they knock out the genes that regulate the lipid expression, or two, they overexpress those genes. And to do this, they'd use CRISPR. CRISPR-Cas9 is a technology that allows bioengineers to go in and accurately edit a cell's DNA. To learn a little bit more about CRISPR before you continue watching, click here to watch my 5-minute CRISPR crash course. There are 3 steps to editing the algae before we can use it as a biofuel. The first step is to find the lipid regulating genes. We need to find these genes because if we can't find them, how are we supposed to edit them? Once they're found, then we have to mark them. Once we find the target DNA inside of those genes, we can mark them using something called a green fluorescent protein. This green fluorescent protein would allow bioengineers to know where the DNA is that needs to be snipped. Then CRISPR would come in. Depending on whether scientists decided to go with option 1 and increase and overexpress the gene, they would make different changes. In fact, when scientists focused on getting rid of the genes that regulate lipid expression, they knocked out 18 of the 20 of them. And in doing so, they actually managed to get the lipid production to double. That's insane. Once the algae has been edited, boom, then they can use it to continue on with the biofuel process. To grow, this algae needs sun, nutrients, and carbon dioxide. The easiest and most efficient way to get fuel from algae is by using something called photobioreactors. They're basically just glass tubes that the algae goes in, and there's a dark tank where CO2 is pumped in. It's pumped into the tubes alongside the other nutrients that the algae needs to grow. By eliminating nitrogen, which is one of the outside environments that has an impact and stunts algae's growth, it can actually allow the algae to grow more efficiently. And since we're eliminating any outside factors that could harm the growth, we're optimizing for the algae to grow so much faster than it could be in another environment. Scientists have just begun to dip their CRISPR wands into the pool of what editing algae can do for us. That being said, there's still quite a bit to go, but at the rate that we're consuming fossil fuels, we need to find a solution fast, and algae might just be one of them.